All right. Hello, Nikki and Val. The link is there. Either one or anyone else would like to join tonight. See, Nikki says she's looking rough, and Val is listening while working. That's all good. Also, reminder: the Mastermind, the Reseller Mastermind, will be right after. Here's the link for that. If you guys or anyone else wants to join, where we talk reselling. Tonight, we're looking at chapter 2 of Atomic Habits. Last week, we went over chapter 1, which I think was a pretty good introduction. And I'm kind of curious, like for me, I don't know, even after rereading chapter 1, I don't know, I was motivated. I had quite a few habits I kicked in. And that might be a good question, like how many habits should you work on at one time? Like I started a running habit where I'm running Monday, Wednesday, Fridays in the morning. Have my coffee while my coffee's brewing. I get ready to go run, then run, come back and get to work. I've also restarted my morning Bible devotion. Yeah. Trying to get my spiritual act together. Also keeping up reading. I'm reading this with about 3 other books, so I'm trying to incorporate reading. So I'm just curious, like, have you guys started any new habits? And as we go through the book, it'll become more practical. But I'm just curious, has anyone else started any habits? Let me catch up on the chat, and then I'm gonna get straight into it. I'm just gonna go with the format of just kind of reading it. That way, if anyone doesn't have the book, they can listen along. They can jump in on the comments, and we can just kind of share our thoughts. So I do appreciate everybody that's dropping by. Hi, Lorena. Glad you could drop by as well. And there's my buddy Clay. Nice to see you here, Clay. Yeah, my new habits are to break the old habits. Well, that's important as well. All right, chapter 2. Everybody grab your favorite beverage and listen along. All right, I like this title, How Your Habits Shape Your Identity, and vice versa. Why was it so easy to repeat bad habits and so hard to form good ones? Few things can have a more powerful impact on your life than improving your daily habits. And yet, it is likely that this time next year, you'll be doing the same thing rather than something better. It often feels difficult to keep good habits going for more than a few days, even with sincere effort and the occasional burst of motivation. Now, Clay probably knows this, and this is one of my problems, and I've talked to my counselor about this today, that I'm great at starting things, and I will go full force for a while, and then I rarely finish what I start. And and that's what they're saying. I don't know what it is that makes it hard. It's fun to start, but it's hard to finish. Despite our best intentions, unhealthy habits like eating junk food, watching too much TV, procrastinating, and smoking can feel impossible to break. Changing our habits is challenging for 2 reasons. Number 1, we try to change the wrong thing. And number 2, we try to change our habits in the wrong way. In this chapter, I'll address the first point. In the chapters that follow, I'll answer the second. Our first mistake is that we try to change the wrong thing. To understand what I mean, consider that there are 3 levels at which change can occur. You can imagine them like the layers of an onion. Let's got a little diagram here. The first layer is changing your outcomes. This level is concerned with changing your results, losing weight, publishing a book, winning a championship, making $100,000 reselling. Most of the goals you set are associated with this level of change. So that's your outcome or your results. The second layer of change is your process. This level is concerned with changing your habits and systems, implementing a new routine at the gym, decluttering your desk for better workflow, developing a meditation practice. Most of the habits you build are associated with this level. So the outer level is the outcomes. Those are the goals or the results. The middle layer is your process, and that's where most of the habits are going to come in. The third and deepest layer is changing your identity. This level is concerned with changing your beliefs, your worldview, your self-image, your judgments about yourself and others. Most of the beliefs, assumptions, and biases that you hold are associated with this level. Outcomes are about what you get. Processes are about what you do. Identity is about what you believe. When it comes to building habits that last, when it comes to building a system of 1% improvements, that's what we talked about last week, the problem is not that one level is better or worse than another. All levels of change are useful in their own way. The problem is the direction of change. Many people begin the process of changing their habits by focusing on what they want to achieve. That would be the goal. This leads us to an outcome-based habits. The alternative is to build identity-based habits. With this approach, we start by focusing on who we wish to become. And I'll get into that, but let me catch up on the chat real quick. Lorena's been controlling my food intake. Oh, that's another one, Lorena. I use MyFitnessPal to track my it's a food journal to keep track of my caloric intake. And I've lost about 4.5 pounds in 2 weeks doing that. And I told Clay this. I didn't tell Clay this, but I was telling my wife this. I was fasting and I didn't eat until I got out of my counseling session. It was like 1:30 and I was craving some barbecue. And my eyes were bigger than my stomach. I ordered this big, giant chopped brisket sandwich. It was delicious with some chips and a drink. And I am so stuffed still, and that was like at 1:30. But I logged it in here. Anyway, there's another habit. There's so many habits we can work on. Val says, new habits. Waking up earlier. I like it. Making the bed right when I get up. My wife does that. I'm not so big on that one, but it does look nice. Cooking more at home. That's good. Enlisting more. All good. And Lorena's been working on it all week. Keep that momentum going, Lorena. Also changing my cat's habits. My cat too, Penny, she is so fat. She takes after her daddy, and we were cutting back her food, and she is not happy. She is meowing nonstop. Clay got in 6.6 miles, about 3 running and the other speed walking. Brandon and I agreed at least on his run days, if he goes, I have to go, and if I've gone and he hasn't. Yeah, accountability partners, that's another good little tip. And tomorrow, Clay, I got to get my run early in the morning. My run habits more 3 days this week. Good job, Clay. Keep it up. Is he on a low carb diet? All right, catching up. Bad eating and TV for me. Those are the bad habits. But working more on listing and stuff. So even if TV is on, I'm heading in the right direction. Give myself credit for that. Hey, 1% improvements. The vet said I was overfeeding him, so I've cut back. Guilty of that too, Val. Polly is the cat's name. I didn't know that. I bought List Perfectly. I think it's going to rev up my listing for platforms. Yeah, it really helps with the cross listing. It speeds it up. I've used it in the past. Not currently use it because I'm trying to cut down on my expenses. Hey, Lone Star Picker, Louis, sending you all greetings. I cannot stay due to other obligations, but wanting you all to know I am reading the book with you, but not able to stay long for the live due to. Hey, glad you could drop by for a second. Let us know what you're thinking about the book. Loren, we're trying to catch a kid in the backyard. His name is Jones, even though he doesn't know that his name. An ode to the movie Alien. Good movie. Clay's been eating it at home, lots more, still bad food, but saving more money. Hey, 1%. All right, let's continue. All right, the next section is talking about outcome-based habits and identity-based habits. It says, imagine 2 people resisting a cigarette. When offered a smoke, the first person says, no thanks, I'm trying to quit. It sounds like a reasonable response, but this person still believes they are a smoker who is trying to be something else. They are hoping their behavior will change while carrying around the same beliefs. The second person declines by saying, no thanks, I'm not a smoker. It's a small difference, but this statement signals a shift in identity. Smoking was part of their former life, not their current one. They no longer identify as someone who smokes. Most people don't even consider identity change when they set out to improve. They just think, I want to be skinny, which is the outcome. And if I stick to this diet, then I'll be skinny. Process. They set goals and determine the actions they should take to achieve those goals without considering the beliefs that drive the actions. They never shift the way they look at themselves, and they don't realize that their old identity can sabotage their new plans for change. Behind every system of actions are a system of beliefs. The system of a democracy is founded on beliefs of freedom, majority rule, and social equality. The system of a dictatorship has a very different set of beliefs like absolute authority and strict obedience. You can imagine many ways to try to get more people to vote in a democracy, but such behavior would never get off the ground in a dictatorship. That's not the identity of the system. Voting is a behavior that is impossible under a certain set of beliefs. A similar pattern exists whether we are discussing individuals, organizations, or societies. There are a set of beliefs and assumptions that shape the system and identity behind the habits. Behavior that is incongruent with the self will not last. I think that's important. Behavior that is incongruent with the self will not last. You may want more money, but if your identity is someone who consumes rather than creates, then you'll continue to be pulled towards spending rather than earning. You may want better health, but if you continue to prioritize comfort over accomplishment, you'll be drawn to relaxing rather than training. It's hard to change your habits if you never change the underlying beliefs that led you to your past behavior. You have a new goal and a new plan, but you haven't changed who you are. The story of Brian Clark, an entrepreneur from Boulder, Colorado, that's in your area, Val, provides a good example. For as long as I can remember, I've chewed my fingernails, Clark told me. It started as a nervous habit when I was young and then morphed into an undesirable grooming ritual. One day, I resolved to stop chewing my nails until they grew out a bit. Through mindful willpower alone, I managed to do it. Then Clark did something surprising. I asked my wife to schedule my first ever manicure. Hello. He said, my thought was that if I started paying to maintain my nails, I wouldn't chew them. And it worked, but not for the monetary reason. What happened was the manicure made my fingers look really nice for the first time. And it worked. I'm sorry. Lost my line. The manicurist even said that. Other than the chewing, I had really healthy, attractive nails. Suddenly, I was proud of my fingernails. And even though that's something I had never aspired to, it made all the difference. I've never chewed my nails since, not even a single close call. And it's because I now take pride in properly caring for them. That's interesting. Changing your identity will change the outcome. The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. It's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this. It's something very different to say, I'm the type of person who is this. The more pride you have in a particular aspect of your identity, the more motivated you will be to maintain the habits associated with it. If you're proud of how your hair looks, you'll develop all sorts of habits to care for and maintain it. If you're proud of the size of your biceps, you'll make sure you never skip an upper body workout. If you're proud of the scarves you knit, you'll be more likely to spend hours knitting each week. If you're proud of your online sales, you will list every day. I just made that one. Once your pride gets involved, you'll fight tooth and nail to maintain your habit. Ooh, that sounds good. Once your pride gets involved, you will fight tooth and nail to maintain your habits. True behavior change is identity change. You might start a habit because of motivation, but the only reason you'll stick with one that one is that it becomes part of your identity. Anyone can convince themselves to visit the gym or eat healthy once or twice, but if you don't shift the belief that the behavior behind that behavior, then it is hard to stick with long-term changes. Improvements are only temporary until they become part of who you are. All right, let me catch up on the chat. It's pretty interesting, the whole concept of the identity. All right, caught up. That was quick. The goal is not to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. The goal is not to sell an item. The goal is to become a reseller. The goal is not to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. The goal is not to learn an instrument. The goal is to become a musician. Your behaviors are usually a reflection of your identity. What you do is an indication of the type of person you believe that you are, either consciously or unconsciously. Research has shown that once a person believes in a particular aspect of their identity, they are more likely to act in alignment with that belief. For example, people who identified as being a voter were more likely to vote than those who simply claimed voting was an action they wanted to perform. Similarly, the person who incorporates exercise into their identity doesn't have to convince themselves to train. Doing the right thing is easy. After all, when your behavior and your identity are fully aligned, you are no longer pursuing a behavior change. You are simply acting like the type of person you already believe yourself to be. Like all the aspects of habit formation, this too is a double-edged sword. When working for you, identity change can be a powerful force for self-improvement. When working against you, though, identity change can be a curse. Once you have adopted an identity, it can be easy to let your allegiance to it impact your ability to change. Many people walk through life in a cognitive slumber, blindly following the norms attached to their identity. Examples: I'm terrible with directions. I'm not a morning person. I'm bad at remembering people's names. That's me. Clay's good at that. I'm always late. I'm not good with technology. I'm horrible at math. Do you guys have any negative identities that you attach to yourself? Some negative self-talk? I'm gonna catch up on the chat, and if anybody has any they'd want to share, I'd be curious. That's good. Hey, working and listening. Hey, if I can provide some background noise, it's all good. Clay says, well, for me and running, I have done it the other way. Choose a marathon and train for it. Right now, it's more become someone in shape and keep getting in better shape so I can crush races. So to get in shape, so what would the identity of that be? A healthy person, a runner, or being specific? Then take on longer and longer races and do things most won't even try. So you're pushing the envelope there. So you're changing your identity, Clay, to someone who's not playing it safe. It sounds like you're ready to break out some boxes, man. That's good. We got an applause. I agree with that one. I'm late. I interrupt. I need tons of attention. Okay, those are Clay's negative identity tags. I spiral down because of myself. I have that tendency to spiral a bit too. Lose weight, healthy, etc. So I don't think of myself as 47. I feel older at times. All right, let's continue. And there are thousands of other variations talking about these negative tags. Let me see, what would be a negative tag for me? Like I have a complex that I don't feel like I'm good enough. Feel incompetent a lot of times, like I can't achieve things. It's like this self-doubt going back to formative years. This negative tag that I'll be honest, that I'm boring. I'm not a people person. I'm an introvert, so I feel like no one really wants to spend time around me or talk with me. And that's one of the reasons I'm attracted to my wife, because she's the extrovert, the life of the party. She kind of fills in those pieces like I feel I don't have. But It's kind of interesting, like these negative tags that we assume. How much of them are really who we are, and then how much do we convince ourselves that we are? Val has a similar one. I think I use my introvertness as my negative identity, and that's interesting. Lori, and that's interesting, Val. Right? That a lot of people view introverts as in a negative way, and I view myself that same way. Like it's almost a curse. Why is it that our society doesn't that views introverts in a negative fashion? Why is it that the extrovert is viewed as, the ideal? Um, hmm. but yeah, I think that is a societal concept anyway, at least here. When you have repeated a story to yourself for years, it is easy to slide into these mental grooves and accept them as a fact. In time, you begin to resist certain actions because that's not who I am. There is internal pressure to maintain your self image and behave in a way that is consistent with your beliefs. You find whatever way you can to avoid contradicting yourself. The more deeply a thought or action is tied to your identity, the more difficult it is to change it. It can feel comfortable to believe what your culture believes. That's the group identity. Or to do what upholds your self image, personal identity, even if it's wrong. The biggest barrier to positive change at any level, individual, team, society, is identity conflict. All right, I'm gonna underline that. The biggest barrier to positive change at any level, individual, team, or society, is identity conflict. Good habits can make rational sense, but if they conflict with your identity, you will fail to put them into action. On any given day, you may struggle with your habits because you're too busy or too tired or too overwhelmed or hundreds of other reasons. Over the long run, however, the real reason you fail to stick with habits is that your self image gets in the way. I'm going to underline that. The real reason you fail to stick with habits is that your self image gets in the way. This is why you can't get too attached to one version of your identity. Progress requires unlearning. Ooh, that's good. So you can't become too attached to your identity. Progress requires unlearning. Becoming the best version of yourself requires you to continuously edit your beliefs and to upgrade and expand your identity. This brings us to an important question. If your beliefs and worldview play such an important role in your behavior, where do they come from in the first place? How exactly is your identity formed? And how can you emphasize new aspects of your identity that serve you and gradually erase the pieces that hinder you? All right, got a little stopping point there. Let me catch up on the chat. Clay says, I guess I didn't realize that about you in those terms because I love talking and hanging out with you. Besides, Angie, I want to see. Well, hey, I appreciate that. And that's my thing, at least for me as an introvert, and Val, any other introverts, tell me what you think. It's easier for me to talk with one person or in small groups. That's okay. It's like the big groups, like the talking in front of a class, man, it goes against everything in my nature. I do form bonds with my students, and it gets easier. But at the beginning of the year, it is horrible. I have so much social anxiety. I am a mess at the beginning, and it is really hard to do. Loren says, I don't say I can't do something, but I feel like I can't get stuff done because I have too much on my plate. I have to tell myself that what you are doing is good enough. And I think that's easy. Like, and kind of what I was talking about at the beginning, that like once you get excited about these habits and changes, like at least for me, I want to make so many changes, but can you really accomplish too much all at once? Or is it better, let me get this habit down and then move on to the next one and slowly kind of add on to those? I definitely get that, Lorena, for sure. Lorena says, I'm sorry. Clay says, quote, Lorena, I feel that way too. I never can get all the stuff done on my list, and so I don't feel as accomplished. And I think, Clay, it's kind of what I keep talking about, and I'm guilty of not accomplishing this, is focusing down our niches, like just on reselling terms, like focusing down to a few things that we can really focus on and get really good at. But when we're doing garage sales and thrift stores and the bins and retail arbitrage and online auctions and storage units and what else am I missing? Estate sales. And we're buying all these things and become like that's what it felt to me. Like I was doing online auctions and they're great. Don't get me wrong, they're really good. A lot of money in there. And I was listening to the auction professor, his live, and that's his number one way of making money is online auctions, and they are great. But you do come across a lot of different items, and like to learn all those, to learn how to package all those, it was for some reason kind of draining me. Um, I don't know, just a lot too much reselling on my plate. Loren says exactly, Clay. At some point, it affects my mental state. Yeah, it overwhelms us, and we kind of tend to shut down, or at least I do. Time is a treasure for me, and time is our most valuable asset, right? I mean, really. And Chris, daily refinement asks us a lot. What is your why for reselling? Why do you want to resell? Um, like like for me, ultimately, it's to gain that time back, right? Like it's going to take a sacrifice, but eventually to accrue the money to get out of debt and to put myself in a situation where I don't have to be a slave to my full-time job and have more time. Val says, I think my life's a 50-50 split. Some see my quietness as a positive. I speak up when I see fit, and it adds to the conversation. I love the way he said, I speak up when I see fit. I see that little sass right there. Others kind of bully me and mock me for being outgoing on YouTube. I think we love your personality on YouTube, and that's a good question. Why do you, and kind of me too, even being on here doing this, like why is it that some introverts or some of us we're more comfortable on YouTube versus being extrovert in person? Uh-oh, Clay's got your back. Let us know. We'll go break some kneecaps. But I said, no, I meant people in my day-to-day life. They don't understand why I'm quiet in person, but able to open up in front of hundreds of people on the internet. And that's a good question. That's something to delve on. And I like, why is that? Why? Not that it really matters, but why? Clay, well, I mean, just listing, packing, GoDaddy, etc., all that. So you're talking about all the process. I think there's like 9 steps in the reselling. Maybe it would help you, Clay, to write them all out, like a procedure list, just to have them down. Like I keep saying that, like to me, it's all about the routines and the habits and reselling. Like I have a pretty good routine down now. It's all going to change when school starts. I hope you tell those people in your life to screw off, or that in a harsher, nicer tone, depending on what you want to do. Dang, Clay's ready to fight. Dang, a little defensive. I don't know. Are you upset? How do you feel about that when they say that? Does that upset you, Val? Are you curious about it? Or are they saying it from just a place of curiosity? Or are they like, or is their tone derogatory? Resell to not teach, as it's much easier in a sense than teaching. That it's definitely true. It is much easier to resell than to teach. Teaching, and I've had a lot of jobs. I've been a police officer. I will say teaching is one of the most difficult things, especially now, that you can do. Lorena says, ooh, I'm getting some offer-up notifications, but I'm gonna leave that alone. Lorena says, yes, at Valamilk, you don't need to explain anything to anyone. It sounds like it may be your family members that may be doing that. I'm just curious. Now, you don't have to explain, but I'm just curious where they're coming from. Maybe it is they're just generally curious, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing to ask that question. I think it's how they're doing it and what they're trying to get at. All right. Val says it makes me feel bad that I can't open up with them. It makes me pull back. Okay, so it is confrontational then. And here's the interesting. I'm not talking about this book on here, but I'm reading a book by Brene Brown. It's called The Gift of Imperfection, and it's all about living a wholehearted, vulnerable life. It's a really good read too, by the way. And like opening up to people, with people, um, and being your authentic self. And a lot of times we go through life and we're trying to live up to these images, these identities that sometimes from, this could be our own self identity that is causing us to feel that way. It's also outside pressures that our ideals we're trying to live up to. Think about all of the advertising on TV. You got to look a certain way. You got to talk a certain way. You got to have the certain house, a certain car to be successful. And we try to live up to those ideals, but to be truly authentic and happy, I think you need to be vulnerable and willing to be your true self. Anyway, that's what I'm trying to figure out in this book. All right, let's move on. The next step is the two-step process to changing your identity. Your identity emerges out of your habits. You are not born with preset beliefs. Every belief, including those about yourself, is learned and conditioned through experience. More precisely, your habits are how you embody your identity. Your habits are how you embody your identity. When you make your bed each day, you embody the identity of an organized person. When you write each day, you embody the identity of a creative person. When you train each day, you embody the identity of an athletic person. The more you repeat a behavior, the more you reinforce the identity associated with that behavior. In fact, the word identity was originally derived from the Latin words "essentitas," which means being, and "identidum," which means repeatedly. Your identity is literally your repeated beingness. Oh, I like that. I like that definition. Your identity is literally your repeated beingness. So who you are is what you do repeatedly. And what we do repeatedly are our habits, whether good or bad. Whatever your identity is right now, you only believe it because you have proof of it. If you go to church every Sunday for 20 years, you have evidence that you are religious. If you study biology for 1 hour every night, you have evidence that you are studious. If you go to the gym, even when it's snowing, you have evidence that you are committed to fitness. The more evidence you have for a belief, the more strongly you will believe it. For most of my early life, I didn't consider myself a writer. If you were to ask any of my high school teachers or college professors, they would tell you I was an average writer at best, certainly not a standout. When I began my writing career, I published a new article every Monday and Thursday for the first few years. As the evidence grew, so did my identity as a writer. I didn't start out as a writer, I became one through my habits. And now, obviously, that makes me think of YouTube. And I've been slacking on YouTube, but it's the same thing. Like if you publish a video twice a week or daily, which I was doing for a while, then you're forcing yourself to become a YouTuber. Of course, your habits are not the only actions that influence your identity, but the virtue of their frequency, they are usually the most important ones. Each experience in life modifies your self image, but it's unlikely you would consider yourself a soccer player because you kicked a ball once or an artist because you scribbled a picture. As you repeat these actions, however, the evidence accumulates and your self image begins to change. The effect of one-off experiences tends to fade away, while the effects of habits gets reinforced with time, which means your habits contribute most of the evidence that shapes your identity. In this way, the process of building habits is actually the process of becoming yourself. Ooh, I like that. The process of building habits is actually the process of becoming yourself. So if you really think about it, whatever you want to become, you just need to do that thing frequently and not necessarily worry about the results, but just to develop that habit. This is a gradual evolution. We do not change by snapping our fingers and deciding to be someone entirely new. We change bit by bit, day by day, habit by habit. We are continually undergoing micro evolution of the self. And I guess that's why I love daily refinement. That's his whole guiding principle is daily refinement, get a little bit better each day. Kind of like what they were talking about last chapter, 1% improvement. When it said over a year, that yields a 37% result. Each habit is like a suggestion. Hey, maybe this is who I am. I like that. Each habit is like a suggestion. Hey, maybe this is who I am. If you finish a book, then perhaps you are the type of person who likes reading. Me. If you go to the gym, then perhaps you're the type of person who likes exercise. If you practice playing the guitar, perhaps you are the type of person who likes music. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single instance will transform your beliefs, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity. Small habits can make a meaningful difference by providing evidence of a new identity. And if a change is meaningful, it is actually big. It actually is big. That's the paradox of making small improvements. I'm going to repeat that. If a change is meaningful, it actually is big. That's the paradox of making small improvements. So the paradox, two things going against each other, right? The small improvements lead to a big outcome. That's the paradox. Putting this all together, you can see that habits are the path to changing your identity. The most practical way to change who you are is to change what you do. Ooh, I like that. The most practical way to change who you are is to change what you do. The actions, right? Each time you write a page, you are a writer. Each time you practice the violin, you are a musician. Each time you start a workout, you are an athlete. Each time you encourage your employees, you are a leader. Each habit not only gets results, but also teaches you something far more important, to trust yourself. Ooh, I like that. Each habit not only gets results, but also teaches something far more important, to trust yourself, to believe in yourself. Like Clay and I, we talk a lot, and that's one of my issues is like, I don't really know if I believe in myself. So these habits, doing these actions, helps us to believe who we are based on the actions. You start to believe you can actually accomplish these things. When the votes mount up and the evidence begins to change, the story you tell yourself begins to change as well. Of course, it works the opposite way too. Every time you choose to perform a bad habit, Lorena was talking about this earlier with food, it's a vote for that identity. Like me picking out on that barbecue for lunch, that was a vote for me being a fat ass. The good news is that you don't need to be perfect. In an election, there are going to be votes for both sides. You don't need a unanimous vote to win an election. You just need a majority or to win the electoral college, but we won't go there. It doesn't matter if you cast a few votes for a bad behavior or an unproductive habit. Your goal is to simply win the majority of the time. Ooh, that is so powerful. It doesn't matter if you cast a few votes for the bad behavior or an unproductive habit. Your goal is to simply win the majority of the time. The majority of the time, you're going to mess up some, but if the majority is doing the right thing, then you're winning. New identities require new evidence. If you keep casting the same votes you always cast, you're going to get the same results you've always had. If nothing changes, nothing is going to change. It's a simple two-step process. I'm going to pause there, catch up on the chat. Man, that's pretty good. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting into it. I like what they're saying. We open it up to whoever we connect to more. Some people like family. We don't always, because they know us, because they have known us, but they don't really know us in detail and see the changes. Or maybe, Clay, they're not willing to see us. They don't want to see us changing. They want to see us the same way they've always seen us. They pigeonholed us. And Val agrees with Clay. Clay says, I'm pretty good at opening up online or in class because I wanted to help people, but it has taken years and years. My mom used to tell me not to tell people my story, and I said, sorry, I'm going to. So when you tell people your story, you're being vulnerable, Clay. So what is it about being vulnerable in that way? Do you want people to connect to you, to know the true you, to know who you really are? Isn't that what we all want? To to be truly known and then to be accepted for who we are, all of our good and bads? Hmm. Lorena says, I listen to lives while on my phone watching TV. I'm now working while listening. Baby steps. Yep, we love the baby steps. Right, casting those votes, the majority. Hey, Jacob, how you doing, my friend? Why, Bruce? You probably answered this, but why is your YouTube Jacob Michael, but you're Bruce? I'm curious. Trying to confuse me because one of my identity tags is I'm bad with names. A little foo-foo. Little greetings, Lorena. I'm watching, reading about school on Facebook, watching TV, but about to get up and work more. Greetings continue. That one hits home with me. With are we talking about the casting votes? And this is the problem about me being behind, right? Yeah, that really hit home with me too, Val. Lorena. Greetings, greetings, greetings. All right, we're caught up. Let's continue. If nothing changes, nothing is going to change. It is a simple two-step process. Number one, decide the person you want to be. Decide who you want to be. Two, prove it to yourself with small wins. And Clay, you're always talking about the small wins. So who do you want to be? And then prove it to yourself with those small wins, those little bitty victories. Baby steps, as Lorena was saying. First, decide what you want to be. This holds at any level. So this is kind of like the goal setting in a way. As an individual, as a team, as a community, as a nation. What do you want to stand for? What are your principles and values? Who do you wish to become? These are big questions, and many people aren't sure where to begin, but they do know what kind of results they want. To get six-pack abs or to feel less anxious, that's me. Like, I have a lot of anxiety, I'm realizing. Like, have a lot of social anxiety. And now, I don't know if that's from being an introvert, and I've just kind of avoided it for years, but I'm realizing it's a big issue with me. Or to double their salary, resellers, that's fine. Start there and work backwards from the results you want to the type of person who would get those results. Ask yourself, who is the type of person that could get the outcome I want? Who is the type of person that could lose 40 pounds? Who is the type of person that could learn a new language? Who is the type of person that could run a successful startup? For example, who is the type of person who could write a book? Is probably someone who is consistent and reliable. Now your focus shifts from writing a book, which is outcome based, to being the type of person who is consistent and reliable, that is identity based. This process can lead to beliefs like, I'm the kind of teacher who stands up for her students. I'm the kind of doctor who gives each patient the time and empathy they need. I'm the kind of manager who advocates for her employees. Once you have a handle on the type of person you want to be, you can begin taking small steps to reinforce your desired identity. I have a friend who lost over 100 pounds by asking herself, what would a healthy person do? And thinking about this from reselling, what would a successful reseller do day to day, hour by hour? All day long, she would use this question as a guide. Would a healthy person walk or take a cab? Would a healthy person order a burrito or a salad? She figured if she acted like a healthy person long enough, eventually she would become that person. She was right. The concept of identity-based habits is our first introduction to another key theme in this book, feedback loops. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your habits. It's a two-way street. The formation of all habits is a feedback loop, the concept we'll explore in depth in the next chapter, but it's important to let your values, principles, and identity drive the loop rather than your results. The focus should always be on becoming the type of person, not getting a particular outcome. All right, I'm going to pause there, catch up on this. Obviously, the question is, what type of person do we want to become? And I've been focusing on the outcomes when I should be focusing on the identity. All right, Clay says, Dad called, still talking to him, so won't hear the end of this probably. Yep, Clay's dad is a talker. Yeah, the casting votes. Yeah, right. Like we don't. I think that's encouraging. Like for me, when I mess up, like today, I had a bad eating episode when I'm trying to cut my calories and eat healthier. So eating poorly, man, I felt like I failed. But reading this, it's like, okay, I have a bad meal, but if most of the time I'm eating right and staying into the right calories and logging my food, then the majority will bring me to the results I want. Loren says, I rub people the wrong way for some reason. I'm loud and obnoxious. I'm trying to be more calm and less wild when talking to not scare people off. That's just, I don't, interesting. So we're like, you're like all over the place, Lorena, or, but I don't know. I don't know. But who are you? I mean, and that's the other thing, like who our identity is. Well, we're talking about changing it, right? But how much of it is like intrinsic that's built into us? Or we just, and it goes into the whole nature versus nurture. Like I'm a quiet person. I wish I could be more outgoing. And I guess if that was the identity I wanted, I could do the things that a person like that would do. Bruce says, well, okay, here's the deal. My name is Jacob Michael. I made a joke reference to an 80s song, They Call Me Bruce by Rick Springfield, here with you and Clay. Nobody knew the song, I guess. Okay, yeah, Rick Springfield in the 80s. All right. So it's a reference to a Rick Springfield song. Clay thought I was, okay. So you are, all right. Now that makes sense. So it's an inside joke. Late to the show, Brian. All right. I enjoyed calling Bruce so much. I just thought, all right. So now I know. I got it. Okay. Val enjoys that little inside joke. Hey, nicknames are good. And that's another thing. Nicknames, why do we have nicknames? They reflect, like we're given a name. If you think about Native Americans, like they were named after their identity was formed. And so isn't that what nicknames kind of do in general, is a reflection of our identity, whereas we can't control our birth names? I don't know. This year has been a big year of changes. One big change I made was breaking ties with toxic people in my life. One of them was my best friend. It was hard to do it too. Oh man, that is hard. But you know the saying, you are the average of the people you spend the most time with, and I do believe that. So toxic people will definitely bring you down. I know that's tough, but that's good that you were able to do that. Bruce from the Rick Springfield song says, now when I sing the song, I can flip my hair and be like, yeah, they do call me Bruce. You got to come on and do that in person, man, with a song playing. We got to see that sometime. Okay, I thought you were Bruce. See, Clay was wrong. But now we know. Now we all know. Oh gosh, Val, how difficult with your best friend. Yeah, that does sound tough. Val, I understand I cut off my brother and his family 8 years ago. I've had to let some friends fall away. Yeah, it is tough cutting people out. That is what I've been telling myself when I find myself in the pantry. Would a healthy person eat those yummy sour cream and onion glaze? The answer is always no. But maybe this brings you a little solace, the voting, right? As long as the majority of the time you're going for the healthy snacks, the healthy food. And maybe at the beginning, I don't know, each person's different. Maybe at the beginning, you got to be really strict to form that habit where it's more natural to go for the healthy thing. But I believe in the kind of the 80-20, which is like the 80-20 rule, which runs through everything. If you do 80% of something the right way, you can afford that 20% slip up. It's the same thing as that majority voting. You will get the results all over the place. That's how I feel right now. Get it from your mama. Hey. Yes, ma'am. All right. Next section. We're coming to the end. Don't forget, we have the mastermind call after this. I'll put the link again. Anybody wants to talk reselling for 40 minutes? The real reason habits matter. Identity change is the North Star of habit change. I like that metaphor, the North Star, the guiding star, the thing that guides us. The remainder of this book will provide you with step-by-step instructions on how to build better habits in yourself, your family, your team, your company, and anywhere else you wish. So this was like the principle, and the rest of it will be more practical in the how-to part. But the true question is, are you becoming the type of person you want to become? The first step is not what or how, but who. You need to know who you want to be. Otherwise, your quest for change is like a boat without a rudder. And that's why we are starting here. You have the power to change your beliefs about yourself. Your identity is not set in stone. You have a choice in every moment. You can choose the identity you want to reinforce today with the habits you choose today. And this brings us to the deeper purpose of this book and the real reason habits matter. Building better habits isn't about littering your day with life hacks. It's not about flossing one tooth each night or taking a cold shower each morning or wearing the same outfit each day. It's not about achieving external measures of success like earning more money, losing weight, or reducing stress. Habits can help you achieve all of these things, but fundamentally, they are not about having something. They are about being someone. Ultimately, your habits matter because they help you become the type of person you wish to be. They are the channel through which you develop your deepest beliefs about yourself. Quite literally, you become your habits. All right, let me catch up the chat and then we'll go through the chapter summary. There you go, an alternative Quest chips. I like I like Sun chips. Like those are tasty to me, and they're a better choice. They have more fiber. They got a nice crunch. Clay says my top 5 people in person text online. He's listing 3 more items. Cousin Angie, Brain, my dad, my mom, my therapist Lisa, and online people like Emily and Val, Danica, and small interactions and comments with Renzi and Pure Hustle. That's good. If I think we should all be asking ourselves that, like, who are our positive people, those top 5 people we spend the most time with that influence us, that help lift us. All right, chapter summary. There are 3 levels of change: outcome change, process change, and identity change. Remember, the identity is at that core. That's the deepest one. The most effective way to change your habits is to focus not on what you want to achieve, but on who you wish to become. Your identity emerges out of your habits. Every action is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Becoming the best version of yourself requires you to continuously edit your beliefs and to upgrade and expand your identity. I like the idea of the upgrading, expanding it. The real reason habits matter is not because they can get you better results, although they can do that, but because they can change your beliefs about yourself. All right, so next week we're doing chapter 3, how to build better habits in 4 simple steps. Any final thoughts or questions about this chapter? I think it's pretty important realizing it's about our identity, who we want to become. Now, the Reseller Mastermind, I'm going to put the link here. And by the way, I know we had some hiccups. That Lorena was there originally, and then, I don't know, we had a problem with the audio or something. And then once I reset, it was me, Clay, and I think it was Bruce, right? Yeah, Bruce was the third person there. We had a good 40-minute mastermind session. So I hope all you guys can come over. Lorena, Bruce, Val, anyone else out there, come over to the mastermind, and we'll talk specifically about reselling in the mastermind community, and try to help each other. We can get into the nuts and bolts without being live on YouTube. It'll just be Zoom offline. And I'll be honest, I know myself, I share a lot more stuff I wouldn't share on YouTube with that small group. So it is more intimate. And I think the group is willing to help each other more. All right, let's catch these last comments. Actually, let me get the link again, the Zoom. Let me get the Zoom invite. Okay. Little copy paste action. Okay, there's the Zoom. It's also, by the way, if y'all haven't, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate it. And it's also in the description, I think, even though I might have changed that Zoom. So here's the link to the mastermind. Loren says, I couldn't hear you, and then I had to get my kiddos and say, hey, I understand. Got to take care of those kiddos. I'll be there without audio doing dishes. Okay, here's the link. I need to go to the Facebook group because what's her name? Marie. She was in our very first one with me and Val. She was asking about it. So I'm gonna tell her we're about to go live there. Let's see. Let me message her. Okay. Going to the mastermind now. Give her the link. She can join us too. All right. All right, guys. So hope y'all got something out of this. Join us next Thursday for chapter 3. We keep trying to build these habits. Come on over to the mastermind. If not, have a great week, and let's talk more habits next Thursday. Everyone have a great night. We'll see y'all in the mastermind. Peace. Clay, cue the music.